Hello, hello. I want to welcome all of you to another hour of some of the stuff that is hard to find anywhere except right here on this radio station and this radio show, the Universal Consciousness Show. And this show is for the thinking global citizen. We try to entertain you and open your mind ever so often, and that is exactly what we're going to do today. And my name is Aage, and I'm one of the hosts, and my co-host Diana is over in Germany. Are you there, Diana?
I am here. Hello, everyone.
All right. But first, for those of you that want to listen to this show again, you will find us where we archive the shows on our website at www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And we are on YouTube under Universal Consciousness Show, on Facebook, and on Twitter under me, and everywhere else where the station sends it out, and that is quite a few places. You'll find us there. And, excuse me. And also, the Late Night in the Midlands, which you are listening to right now, and of course you know that, we need our help too. So go to our website and find the donate button, because we are a listener-supported radio station. And we need to stay on the air every month, so do whatever you can. This is right before Christmas. This is the season of giving. So give a little, and it makes us feel wonderful afterwards. Because if there is no you, there is no us. So we need your help. And then today we have retired Sheriff Richard Mack as a guest with us. We're going to be talking about things that many of you have wondered about, and now there's going to be a little bit of an education here. He's one of the few sheriffs who had the courage to stand up to the power-hungry and overreaching federal government to tell them, I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America, and not to the federal statutes only. And in my county, I have the last word. Of course, I'm paraphrasing there, but that's basically what it was. He has challenged the overreaching federal government all the way to this highest level in the judiciary in the United States, and that's the Supreme Court of the United States, and he won. Now he has created a national organization of like-minded thinking sheriffs who value and will protect people's rights before bowing down to the overreaching federal demands. So I wanted Sheriff Mack to come on and talk a little bit about freedom, God-given rights, and how good government, if there is such a thing, should interact with people as the servant they were intended to be. And this gets rather complicated, and a lot of people, they don't know how to think in those terms. So this is what I get for leaving my cell phone on. It rang. Sorry about that. Anyway, I want to welcome you to the show, Richard. Here, are you there?
I am certainly here, Augie. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Yes. Hello, Richard, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Just for the beginning, would you please tell us a little more about yourself and where did you get the courage to do some of the things you have done?
Well, my kids think it was just crazy, but I thought it was probably just a little bit of courage and a little bit of naivete. I just thought, well, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to keep your oath. I thought that was just a matter of fact. You're supposed to uphold and defend the Constitution. I thought that was a matter of fact. I thought we were supposed to stand for liberty, and the federal government needs to stay within its parameters. I thought those were all things that were supposed to happen. And so that's what I did. And the older I get, though, that case was adjudicated and released by the United States Supreme Court in June of 1997. So it's been 21 years now, and the more I look back at it, the more miraculous I think it was. I think it was astonishing. It was the only time in history where this has ever happened, where a sheriff sued the federal government, took it all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and won a major landmark decision. It's never happened before. In American history, it's never happened before, and it's never happened since. And the more I study the case, I learn something new just about every time. It's the most powerful 10th Amendment state sovereignty case in the history of our country, and yet it's probably the most ignored and disobeyed decision in the history of our country. But I started my career in law enforcement way back in 77. I was working my way through college in Utah, and I became a part-time meter maid and cadet for the Provo Police Department. And then I tried to get in the FBI. My father was a retired FBI agent, and of his 4 sons, his 5 sons, I thought I'd be the one to follow in his footsteps. It never worked out, and I can certainly see the Lord's hand in that, why I didn't get in the FBI. And no question I was meant to do something else. And so I hired back on with the Provo Police Department after I graduated from college. And I was still trying at that time to get in the FBI, but within the next 2 years, it was pretty much finished that I was not going to get in the FBI. I stayed with Provo Police for 11 years, and I did just about everything in law enforcement that's possible. I did murder investigations, I did bicycle theft, family fights, DUIs, traffic citations and traffic enforcement. And that was probably the one thing, traffic enforcement and writing tickets was probably the one thing that woke me up. It really changed my mind about law enforcement, about America, about the Constitution. And about the 3rd year that I was just sitting around writing all these traffic tickets, it hit me that traffic tickets were wrong and immoral and unconstitutional. And I could tell you how that is on all 3. But suffice it to say for now, I decided at that point that I was going to start studying the Constitution, and that I was going to follow the Constitution, and I was going to keep my oath. And I decided I would keep my job. I would be a constitutional cop. I would be a constitutional guard of the Republic and stay in law enforcement. Well, I worked an undercover narcotics stint, and after that, I got moved from patrol to school resource officer, and then I was promoted to corporal, then promoted to sergeant, and I was a detective for about 2.5 years. And then some crazy people in Arizona from our hometown, my wife and I are from the same area in southeastern Arizona. The crazy people I'm talking about are her parents, and they kept demanding me and asking me and begging me to move home to Safford, Arizona, and run for sheriff of Graham County. And so I did. And miraculously, I hadn't lived there for 12 years. I never worked in law enforcement or anything else there. I used to work in a grocery store there locally. But I had some name recognition because of my father, because he was an FBI agent there for so long. And I had some name recognition because I excelled in sports at local high school and community college. And so it wasn't like nobody knew me. But anyway, I hadn't lived there for 12 years, and I walked into town. I said, "Make me your sheriff." And they did. And I got elected in 1988, re-elected in 1992. And then I sued the federal government in 1994. I was the first sheriff to file, and then 6 other sheriffs joined me in the lawsuit. And 2 of us went to the Supreme Court, and that was Jay Prince from Ravalli County, Montana, and myself from Graham County, Arizona. And it was a 5-4 split decision where the United States Supreme Court agreed that the Brady bill was unconstitutional and that the federal government does not have the authority or the constitutional prerogative to commandeer sheriffs for federal bidding. And the Brady bill was the one in question, and they actually, now get this, Augie, they actually threatened to arrest us. All the sheriffs of this country, they threatened to arrest us if we failed to comply with their ridiculous, unconstitutional, unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in history where that ever happened also. So I can't believe that every sheriff in the country didn't object to it and fight it, but only 7 of us did, and I was one that started the whole thing.
Wow. That was quite a journey, wasn't it?
Wow, and that was pretty quick for that journey, actually. And I just got an interview by a student journalist at the Walter Cronkite College of Journalism, and he came over to my home and he said, "Man, they ought to make a movie out of this story," because he just did a story about my case and how I did it. And after he got into the particulars, he said, "This ought to be a movie." And sometimes I've thought that too. I say it's really a miraculous story. It's an amazing David versus Goliath story. And I wish somebody would come along and make it a movie, but I'm probably not going to be the one to do it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned traffic ticket. You must have been studying some of the material that Jack McLam was educating police officer.
No, I really did. I didn't get to know Jack until I filed the suit. So I had heard of him. I saw his book, Vampire Killer 2000, or whatever, what year it was. I don't remember. I remember seeing the book. I thought the book was just a little bit too strong. I didn't like the title. I thought, what does Vampire Killer 2000 have to do with anything? So anyway, but Jack and I became very good friends, and I actually spoke at his funeral.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I studied Jack quite a bit too, 17, 20 or so years ago. And he is the one that just educated me to the fact that even a driving's license, the federal statute says clearly that a driving's license is only required if you are driving for commercial purposes.
Commercial, yeah.
Private self, you don't need one.
But I'll tell you where I actually got convinced. When I started studying the Constitution and specifically the Bill of Rights, what convinced me that traffic tickets were immoral, wrong, and unconstitutional was they violate the 8th Amendment. So I'm telling everybody right now, if you need to look up the 8th Amendment, you go right ahead, because traffic tickets absolutely violate the supreme law of the land, the untouchable Bill of Rights, and it's number 8. It's clearly a violation of the 8th Amendment.
Yeah.
Does somebody want me to tell you why?
Oh, I'm all ears.
After everybody's had a chance to look up the 8th Amendment in your little pocket constitution, the reason it is because the 8th Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which tickets are frequently, not all the time, but they are frequently cruel and unusual. But most importantly, they are excessive fines and bail. And those, my dear friends, are against the law. Read the 8th Amendment and you'll find out. Now, the reason they are two ways violative of the 8th Amendment is that the fines are way too high and their frequency is astronomically out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally write about $9 billion worth of tickets every year. And that's just taxation through citation. I'm against police being used as revenue agents. We are not tax collectors. We are here to protect the rights of the people. And when we set up all these ridiculous roadblocks and DUI checkpoints, and I'll write up all these tickets and demand to see papers, we demand to see your papers. And we do that at roadblocks, and it's going to happen again here on New Year's Eve through into the night till 2 or 3 in the morning, where we just stop people without probable cause and check their papers. And I'm sorry, Diana, but that sounds to me more like Nazi Germany than it does like the United States of America.
Yeah, and there is that term again, Papieren bitte.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when we're talking about these things, we're talking about the freedoms that we have, and there's a difference between liberty and freedom. What do you see that different to be, Richard?
I've heard that both ways, and I'm of the ilk that really doesn't believe there's much difference. In fact, I think it's only their spelling. I don't believe they have a significant meaning difference. And if you look them up in the dictionary, they're synonymous. However, the reason I believe they're really not different is that there's only one word for both of those in Latin. I don't know that those of you who speak German can tell me there's two words for liberty in German. However, in Spanish and Latin, there's only one word, and it's in French it's liberté. I think it's liberté, and in Spanish it's libertad. Yo soy libre. I am free. There's not two words for liberty and freedom. There's only one. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to know the meaning of the one, and that is just stick to liberty. But if you can't say I am libre or I am free. So with using the word liberty, it doesn't exist. So I really believe they mean the same. And it would really be great if our politicians and our police knew one of them, and I don't care which one, just know what the meaning is and know of your responsibility to promote liberty. That's what I'm mostly concerned about.
Yeah. I kind of think that maybe liberty goes a little deeper than freedom, because you may have freedom to go fishing if you have a license, but that may not fall under liberty.
Well, I don't think excuse me. I teach high school, and I teach the Constitution and American history. And this subject came up, and one of the presentations, the oral presentations that the students had to give, one of them was, you're free if you get your permit. But to me, it's all indicative of the over-bureaucratic nightmare and the overreach of the government in regulating our God-given rights and also permitting that which they have no business permitting. And for instance, we get a permit for just about everything in this country. And I don't think any of those permits produce freedom. I believe that they're all a restriction and all a detriment to our liberty. And, there might be some of them where the states have more regulatory authority than the federal government, and I could see some of it. But there's some of those, likewise, I cannot see or understand. Now, I have my driver's license, but I don't believe a driver's license should be required. And then people say, well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? I said, let's focus first on the principles of liberty, and then let's worry about how we fix the rest of the logistical matters that will fall in line with that. People say, well, what if you're not a safe driver? And I say, we kill 25,000 Americans every year on our streets. Are you saying that the driver's license has made us safe drivers? Obviously, it hasn't. Well, what are you going to do about age limits? I said, I'm okay for an age limit. But where I'm mostly concerned is that parents make sure their children are ready to drive, and not the state and not the government.
Absolutely.
And I'm also for a private company proving that you have a certificate of competency, that the government doesn't need to get involved in any of this. But if an officer ever stops you, you can show him your certificate of competency. There's another one I really object to. There's two licensures that I really, really object to. And I think that they destroy liberty, and I think they're all about control and having us fall in line as good little subjects, good little boys and girls, good little soldiers and robots of an out-of-control government. One is the license I have to put on my vehicle.
Yeah.
What on earth is the government purpose or the public service purpose of me having to put a license on my property in order to go down the street? We'll say, well, you got to pay your taxes. I paid my taxes on that car when I bought it.
Yep.
9%. If you buy a $20,000 car, 9% gets up there in the money, and it is. It's about $1,800 or so, and it's way out of line. But okay, I've paid my tax now. I paid that to the government, and I pay gasoline tax, and I pay a lot of other taxes that pay for the roads and highways. So don't tell me that I have to keep paying that tax on my personal property that I own, and it's my property. And so I should be able to put that on the road because I've already paid my taxes. And they say, well, how would the police find you if they need to run your car? I said, well, that's their problem. That's not my problem. I don't owe that to the police. In fact, they owe it to me to not violate my privacy. I don't have to give them automatically my information. They don't have a right to access my name and address before they even talk to me. They go right to my license and run it, and then bam. I admit that having my vehicle licensed helps the police, but I still see no public interest in it, and it certainly doesn't help me. And if I choose not to have one, I should be able to. If you want to have your vehicle licensed, go right ahead. If you think it helps you or the public, go ahead. But I should have also, living in a free country, the choice not to. Yeah. I should also have the choice and the freedom and the liberty to not wear a seatbelt if I choose not to. I think people should wear their seatbelt, but that's a personal choice. And instead, now we have government forcing people to do that, or we fine them, and sometimes we even do worse. And so the other one, licensure, that I really find the most astonishing that people just line up for, and that almost every single one of these licensures comes with me paying the government to give me that license or that permit. Not only, do you see what kind of little robots we are?
Oh.
We're just so programmed and we're so brainwashed, and we all line up and say, oh, please give me permission to marry my wife. Can you believe that, Augie? We do that.
I know it.
And we go get a marriage license as if I didn't have that right, and the government has to bestow that upon me, and I got to pay them $70-80 for that privilege of them giving me a license to go get married. Where that really violates a principle is the very first God-given right mentioned in the Bill of Rights, the very first one.
Yeah.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion nor prohibit the free exercise thereof. Well, this is a religious practice to me. I don't know if it is to you, but getting married is a religious ceremony. It's part of my church membership. It's part of who I am religiously and spiritually. And getting married is between me, my wife, and God Almighty. I see no reason whatsoever why the government has to be involved in that relationship. And so, some people say, well, it doesn't really matter. It matters to me. I don't want to be told what to do or how to live my life, and I'm not going to go pay government to give me permission to marry my wife, which I did because at the time I had no idea that I would ever feel this way. But the more you study about the principles of liberty, the more you'll come to know that government's been controlling us in so many ways that they absolutely have no right to be. And as a matter of fact, the law has now become the evil that it was supposed to punish and stop.
I'll tell you, Richard, I have studied this particular thing on the marriage license quite a bit, and I find out in the federal statutes, it is very clearly, it says that when when two people, I think they use the term, two people get married, they get a license. and that invites a third party into that marriage contract, and that third party is the government, and they have the right, 1/3 right to everything that couple produces, including the children.
Children.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the thing
The
is
marriage
that
license, the marriage license in Arizona makes that pretty clear.
yeah,
And it makes it pretty scary, you know. And people say that would call you and me crazy for looking at that. And you know what? When I looked it up, I went, now all these crazy right-wingers don't look like they're so crazy. But you know, even just on its face, to have to ask permission is really crazy. But do you know where the marriage license came from historically in the United States, correct? You know
yeah,
that?
I know. I know where it came from between races and stuff, but maybe you could explain it.
Yeah. It was to prevent miscegenation. It was to prevent blacks from marrying whites.
Yeah.
Back after, during Reconstruction and after Reconstruction in America, they said, well, we don't want blacks intermarrying, and so we will just make a law that they have to come ask us permission to get married. Mm-hmm. So you can see what a racist practice it was, and yet people just want to fall in line with all this stuff, as if that it's no problem. Government control, government taking money, and us bowing down and kissing the ring of the king government is just something I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. And I tell you, when I look into that marriage license again, I also find that the biggest reason that the Child Protective Services can come in and take the children away from a couple is because of that marriage license, because government actually own those children. And that is why I will never marry again. I will have a contract, because an agreement based on spiritual values with a spouse someday, but I will never be married again.
Well, I've thought about rescinding mine, and it's just not high on my list because I've got so many other freedom things to worry about and that I'm trying to do, and so I hope that I can do that and put them all in a proper order. But where I have disdain for it, I have disdain for a lot of other things, and the number one cause that my organization, the CSPOA, is pushing right now is innocence in prison. And please, everybody, go to our website and become a member. Diana, you can, everybody around the world who wants to become a member can certainly do so at cspoa.org. And anyway, I don't know if you have that up on the screen on anything there, but it's C as in Charlie, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, O as in Oscar, and A is in CSPOA. Did I say that right? Yeah, A as in Adam. CSPOA.org. And the thing of it is, we've now hooked up, and you can see that there, but we've hooked up to another website, and we actually started this website called thefreedomcoalition.com. Thefreedomcoalition.com. And we've been fighting this for 2 years now, and this isn't anything for me, Augie. I have not been victimized by government to the extent of going to prison, and I believe you have, if I don't remember correctly.
Yes, I did.
And there's other people who have gone, and I have just gotten to where I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit by and watch innocent people go to federal prison, especially federal prison. There's others statewide too, but President Trump promised us to drain the swamp. If he continues to allow the Obama leftovers to continue to attack people in this country, there's something else you and Diana might not know, but they are actually using SWAT teams for the Department of Education to go after students who have failed to pay their student loans. That's on, you can look up Kenneth Wright. Kenneth Wright is a black man in Stockton, California, who had his home ransacked, his door kicked in, if they kicked in the door, then they had to have used a no-knock warrant, which we usually use for the worst suspects in drug dealing or human trafficking or stuff like that. Those kind of warrants and a no-knock warrant would be used in those types of cases. This was a man whose name wasn't even on the loan. It was towards his ex-wife, but they shouldn't be doing this to her either. Anyway, she owed money on her student loan. They went in, kicked the door in, and ransacked her house for 6 hours while he was locked up outside in a hot police cruiser for 6 hours. And this is now, I found out, the federal government tried to disavow the whole thing, and it turns out they were lying. Big deal, big surprise there.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're doing them all over Houston area now too, and this is continuing to happen. We still have BLM and the Fish and Wildlife Department of the United States and many other agencies, EPA, IRS, FDA, that are going after people so ridiculously. And one in particular is an Amish farmer by the name of Sam Gerard, who got a 6-year sentence. He sits in prison right now on a 6-year sentence because he made a Vaseline-type salve out of chickweed that has never hurt anyone. And I went to his stupid, idiotic, tyrannical, unjust sentencing on June 30th, 2017, and this judge, Danny C. Reeves, this tyrant of a jackass, sentenced him to 6 years in prison because, one, he had shown no remorse. He even said this. The judge said in court, he's given me no reason to be lenient. Can you believe a judge saying that?
Yeah.
You only sentence people because they've done something wrong and they need to, the public needs to be protected or they need punished. He didn't need either one, and the citizens didn't need to be protected from this guy. He never committed a crime in his life. So the judge had the audacity to say that in court. He's given me no reason to be lenient because he didn't come kiss my ring. Another one, he said, he's obstinate. Sam Gerard is obstinate. Can you believe a judge could say such a thing?
Yeah, I believe it because I've seen what they do, and now I see that we're past the bottom of the hour. So we got to take ourselves about a 4-minute break to pay some bills, and we will be right back speaking with Sheriff Mack and here on the Universal Consciousness Show.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
Data. The sensors can't penetrate the planet's ionosphere. There's too much interference. Can you find a way to scan for life forms?
I would be happy to, sir. I just love scanning for life forms. Life forms. You tiny little life forms. You precious little life forms. Where are you?
Even the ETs know this is the place to be. LNM Radio Network.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from LNMRadioNetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Ever wanted to be sure your robot slave was behaving? Is Echo getting out of control and meeting with Alexa when you're not around? You need RoboGrog. RoboGrog is the new product from Snooze You Lose, the company that also brought you the fine products of Flog a Horse and Calm You Down Now. RoboGrog will put your robotic minions to sleep, bringing their AI a sense of peace and comfort. It does this by sending bolts of electricity straight where the sun doesn't shine. Get RoboGrog today at any fine retailer and set yourself free from the devices that bind you.
You can't just throw someone into prison and silence their warning because you don't agree with them. You don't have to like my methods or what I stand for. Silencing me won't make the problem go away. It will just whittle away at the ability of people to be ready for the real threats. And when the worst happens, and it will, maybe you can take comfort in protecting the people from a dangerous radical who wanted to tell them the truth.
Tired of searching for great talk and great information? Look no more. LNM Radio Network, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hello, hello. We are back with the Universal Consciousness, and we are talking with retired Sheriff Mac about freedoms. And we got a little bit of static here, and we are going to continue. So Richard, you may not remember this, but I have known you for 25 years. And I think it was in 1997 or so, 1994. Me and another guy, we came down to Safford and we visited you in your office. I was driving down every winter when it got cold up in the Midwest. And we sat in your office for 2 hours talking about political and law enforcement and world affairs. In your office, I think it was about 1994, 5 or something, 6 maybe.
Right.
Do you remember that?
It wasn't 1997 because I was out of office then, but yeah,
Okay.
So it had to have been probably 95.
Yeah. And we had a great visit. In fact, you took the time. We were not even from your town. You took the time with us. I remember one time during that visit, a police officer stuck his head in the door and he said, "We got an important call for you." And you just waved him up and he said, "Take care of it."
well, that's why I have good. That's why I have good people, so that that will happen.
And another thing I want to say right now is that a very good friend of mine and an acquaintance of you here up in Barry Hess, he texted me before the show and he said, "Tell Richard Merry Christmas from me on the air." And here you are. Merry Christmas.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, Barry's a good friend, and he's a good man, and he has fought the good fight for a long time as well. So, I didn't remember that until you said that, but yes, I remember that you did come in there, but you didn't live in Tucson at that time then.
Oh, no. I lived in Omaha.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
and
I always tell people that if you believe everything that the federal government's telling you, I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha.
Yeah. I remember Barry Hess also. He was running for governor in Arizona the same year that I got on the ballot and ran for Congress. We got.
He's always running for governor. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a time when he's not. So.
Yeah, he's educating a lot of people.
I sure wish he was governor, though. That's for sure.
Boy, that's for sure. Yeah. Hey, I got another thing here that is a little more esoteric. You know, when it comes to freedom, there's a spiritual value to that and spiritual connection to it. Where do you think that come in? Where the freedoms does not come from government. it comes from a spiritual source for us to be intended to be free with responsibility.
Well, just in case our atheist friends want to make sure that they're covered in this, they are. The Declaration of Independence says nature or nature's God. So if you don't believe in God, that's fine. I don't understand how you could do that, but, you know, I have atheist friends. So plain and simply, you just have to know and understand that these rights you received them at birth from nature. They are innate. In other words, you're born with them. So that's all fine. But also, if other people want to take that a little bit more religiously, which is our prerogative, it comes from nature's God. It comes from, as they say, divine providence. That's a quote from the Declaration of Independence. And it also says from our Creator. So once you see the Creator, then you know that there was a creation and that there was somebody higher, a higher authority than government, and that is God. And so all of us, whether you're atheist or not, we owe our first allegiance to the Creator or nature or nature's God or nature's law. Mm-hmm. And so that is a simple process to understand that before we enforce man's law, we must know and understand in our hearts that we are actually first complying with and obeying God's law. And that's another thing that's been forgotten and ignored tremendously in today's government.
Yeah, and I think that the founding fathers did really well in that when they put the word nature in there, because many of them actually did not believe in God. They were Masons, and they believed in what we probably today would call the universal consciousness. So
right.
Some of them...
Well, I know Masons. I know some Masons too, and I know Masons who definitely believe in God.
Yeah.
Some do. I don't know the whole... I don't know the whole Masonic thing, and I know there's different levels to it. But I do personally know some Masons who are very devout Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, I happen to know a few of them too. And here is a really goofy question. What do you think freedom would feel like? Total freedom would feel like if we actually had some.
If we actually had some freedom?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've actually put out the challenge before. I said, okay, let's just say the Constitution's wrong, I'm wrong, the Founding Fathers were wrong, so, yeah. But let's try it for 1 year. Let's just try freedom. Let's just try liberty. Let's just try the Constitution. Let's enforce the Bill of Rights. Let's live by these principles for 1 year. If it doesn't help, if it doesn't increase liberty, prosperity, and peace throughout our land and throughout the world, if an experiment for 1 year, after that, then I will quit whining and I will quit doing everything. But I said, I'm willing to try it for a year if you are.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll go back. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to your socialistic, communistic ways. You know, but nobody wants to take me up on that. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what it would feel like. It would feel heavenly. It would feel like a new beginning. It would feel like a new life for us all. And that's what I want. I want to be able to be free. I don't want to be afraid of my government anymore. I don't want to be afraid of the IRS, which I am. And because I know that they are not checked by Congress or the president. I do know that they commit crimes and have committed numerous crimes. I know that almost all the bureaucracies in Washington are way out of control, and that they will go after people to teach them a lesson, not for justice, but just to teach people a lesson who's in charge, who's the boss, and who's king. And so, yeah, I would absolutely die a happy man if I could live 1 year with complete constitutional liberty, with God's law, and that's all the Constitution was trying to protect and promulgate was God's law, the laws of nature. And so I would really love the constitutional rule of law to be applied 1 year. And I would love to be free for once in my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, and your question is valid because it brings out one solid point, and the point is this. We're not free. If anybody listening has not understood that by now, then maybe they were falling asleep during the show or something. But, you know, and Augie, people say, especially at school, the students say, well, that's your opinion. And I said, well, actually, it's not. I dedicated myself to this position as a teacher to not give you my opinion. And I'm going to tell you that my opinion, or yours, really isn't what we're after in this class. We're after the opinion of the Founding Fathers and those who wrote our foundational documents, and that's what we're after. I want to know what their intent was. I want to know what they meant. I want to know what they fought and died for. And so let's try that. And so all of you know that everything I'm telling you comes directly from the founders or from the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, maybe a little bit the Magna Carta, maybe a little bit the Mayflower Compact, the Rights of Englishmen from like the early 1600s. I mean, it's kind of funny, but England had most of these principles written down and in some of their laws, but they just always had some evil king that never really felt like he had to adhere to them.
Yeah. Nothing has changed.
That's really what propelled the separation back in 1776.
Yeah, you know, a wiser man than me said once that when the people is afraid of government, we have liberty. When the government is afraid of... no, it's the other way around. When the people is afraid of government, we have tyranny. When the government is afraid of the people, we have liberty.
Correct.
And I think that's something that the people over in France are experiencing right now, because they're rioting in Paris, and they've had it. All these new taxes and everything that's been laid on it. Remember, 140 years ago, they cut a bunch of heads off for doing the same thing. So maybe they need to rethink what they're doing over there.
Boy, we need to rethink that a lot of places, and we certainly need to start right here in America.
A retired police officer in Tucson, he told me quite a few years ago now that in Phoenix, Arizona, they don't hire people onto the police force if they are putting on their application that they are Christians.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Good.
Yeah. They don't want people with this higher spiritual standard. They want them to be easily brainwashed and hard-nosed, I guess.
Well, I've heard that also about that they want people applying for police positions who don't have very high IQ.
Yes.
And I didn't see that when I was in law enforcement, and I certainly didn't do that. But for somebody to say that means they just want somebody that they can dumb down, that they can fool, and that somebody will just follow, that's stupid enough to just follow orders. And that's really where that is headed. And I'll tell you what, does that just prove that we have a worse situation than you and I even imagined?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing, too, that maybe we need a police review board. I know that's been tried, but it just never made it onto the ballot to be voted on in Arizona. I think we need one of those.
Yeah, I think we do for all public officials. First of all, there's never the Constitution says no religious test is required to be in public office, but there should be a Constitution test. If these people don't know the Constitution, why on earth would they be taking an oath to uphold and defend it, and why on earth would we want them in office?
Yeah.
So I think that's a legitimate test and should be a law.
Why would they make an oath to something they don't understand?
Or that they're completely ignorant of, because if they're ignorant of it, then that just takes us back to Jefferson's warning that you can't be ignorant and free. And so why are these people there to promote freedom and protect freedom when they're completely ignorant of what freedom is and how it's supposed to be protected?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I see we have 5 minutes left of the show here. So would you tell us a little bit about your books that you have written and what you're doing and where they can get a hold of you? And I know you're very accessible. I'm sitting here looking at your business card, and you got both your phone numbers on there, so you're very accessible to anybody that wants to talk to you.
Well, thank you. First, I've written about 7 or 8 books. I've actually written one novel. If somebody really loves to read, you definitely want to read my novel. It would be great for a high school kid that's wanting to do a book report on or something, but it's called The Naked Spy. His mission began the day he died. It's a sci-fi, out of this world, out of your body experience spy thriller. And there's nothing lewd about it. Don't let the title worry you. It's The Naked Spy it's kind of a little funny thing that happens inside the book, but it's a very clean book. It's a very nice book, but it also shows you what kind of imagination I have. And,
all right.
It's a great book, but I highly recommend first and foremost that people get the book that you mentioned, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. That's the most powerful book I believe that I ever wrote. Its sequel just came out a few years ago, and that is, that book's only 50 pages long. The sequel is about 140 pages long, and that is, Are You a David? And it has a picture of David and Goliath on the front, and a picture of a female sheriff from Texas who is one of our good constitutional sheriffs, Sheriff Pam Elliott of Edwards County. She's on the front cover. I was going to put me on the front cover, but I fired me and I hired her. And I would say that that's probably overall the best book I ever wrote. I think the powerful message of the county sheriff is still in that one, but it talks to law enforcement in general. It talks to people in general about, are you really a David? Are you willing to accept the call to stand for freedom? Are you willing to stand against David? And there's so many Goliaths in Washington, D.C. We have got to have Davids across our country who wear a badge on their chest and are willing to stand and interpose on behalf of the American people to protect us from being victimized by an out-of-control government. And that's another reason why Madison and Jefferson wrote the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, so that they could actually prove to people that that's exactly what state officials are supposed to be doing, interpose ourselves on behalf of the American people. And of course, I have other books, The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, From My Cold Dead Fingers, Why America Needs Guns, Are You a David, I've just mentioned, and the best 2 books on the Second Amendment, From My Cold Dead Fingers, Why America Needs Guns, that I mentioned, and the sequel to that one is The Magic of Gun Control. And most importantly, people, we want you to join us in helping the people who are imprisoned innocently, who have been victimized by our government. We're the only national organization really going after that. We've tried to get so many people in Washington, D.C. to help us get these people's names in front of Trump so that they could get a pardon. No politician will help us. Rand Paul's not helping us. Ron Paul's not helping us. It just goes on and on. Republicans are not helping. They turn their backs on us like this is some sacred cow that they cannot touch. And it's exactly what we promised to do. It's why we are here. Augie, it's why you and I have fought for freedom for so long. It's that we're here to help people who can't fight for themselves, people who have already been victimized and put in a cell and put in a jail cell. Let's get together and join up and help with this cause. So please go to our website, thefreedomcoalition.com. Go to cspoa.org, make a donation, become a part of our organization, and help us with this holy cause of liberty and helping as a true Samaritan should, and helping our neighbors who have been so victimized by our out-of-control government.
That sounds wonderful. And I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Are you going to run for sheriff again?
Well, I went to a meeting this Wednesday, and a guy there at the meeting says, you're still getting ready to run. I said, for what? And he said, Maricopa County Sheriff. And I said, man, if you can talk my wife into that, I would consider it. But
Man, oh man,
I
if you're
just don't
doing,
I just don't think that my wife and kids would support me on it anymore. I'll be 66 in a couple of weeks. I feel fine, but I've had a couple of heart attacks, and I don't understand why that is the case, but it is. I've always been very athletic and very active. I was doing my exercises before I got on the show with you. My wife's health isn't very good at all. She's had some about 4 major operations in the last 2 or 3 years. And I will tell you this, if I felt that that's where God wanted me to go and I could actually do some good there, I would absolutely do it. I would be willing to risk my life because of the Founding Fathers' statement in the Declaration of Independence at the very last sentence. We mutually pledge to ourselves our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I'm willing to do that, but I'm not going to do it alone. If you want me to do something like that, or anybody else listening, if you want me to, then you need to get behind me and you need to help me financially. And if you don't really want me to, then the people who want me to do that and just pat me on the back, then I'm probably not ever going to do it.
well, I hope you will, because we need people like you there. We need a change.
And I agree with that. We sure do. And Maricopa County is about 1,000 times bigger than the county I served as sheriff in, so it would really be a big change for me. But I'm willing to do it. But like I say, if people are willing to stand beside me on it, I'm willing to try.
Okay. Well, I sure thank you very much for spending an hour with us, and this was very educational, and I loved it, Richard. If you're going to run for sheriff, I sure want to be there right by you and help you promote that and help you in whichever way I can. So I thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and we will be back next week with another show of the Universal Consciousness Show with a mystery guest. So thank you very much, and until next week, take care of each other.
Thank you. Bye-bye.